the MK party has withdrawn its case to set aside the election results, and the IEC is objecting. So before we talk about this particular case and the developments there, and another issue relating to MK, I think it's important to start off by pointing out that the MK party had a 3-day strategic workshop a few days ago. And one of my worries was that the media didn't sufficiently cover this particular story, this particular event. And I think that's a failing of the media. The MK is the third largest party in South Africa, right? That's number one. They represent 2.3 million voters. That's number two. Number three, they are the official opposition in the Parliament of South Africa. As such, the media is obligated to cover their events and to give the public a view of what is happening there. The media cannot and should not take a hostile view on political parties. The role of the media is to provide the public with information, with analysis, and then the public will then make up their minds as to whether or not they want to continue giving particular political parties a mandate or whether they want to withdraw that mandate. When the media then tries to ignore critical events, developments that occur in political parties, I think that is something that is wrong of the media and indicates that we have a media which is broken, a media which is not going to reform, which makes platforms such as the dissection, such as Mighti Jamie TV, very important. And if you think that we need to continue, to have independent voices covering particular political events, I encourage you to subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed. Under 80%, just about 79% of the viewers watching the channel haven't subscribed yet. So if you're one of those, give us a double tap, subscribe, and then we can continue contributing to these critical conversations. So that's just something I thought was important to mention, because I thought it was strange that the strategic workshop of the third largest party, right? The largest party in KwaZulu-Natal was not covered at all. The official opposition, that's peculiar, that's strange. Do you think that I'm correct when I say that? Or do you think that the media should not cover the MK because they are problematic? What's your view? But let's go to the electoral court case and the withdrawal. So basically on Wednesday, the MK party sent a notice to the court withdrawing its case. When the spokesperson of the MK issued a statement, they said that it was a strategic withdrawal, right? They sent a letter to the court, and then they also said in that letter that they'll be back soon and that the case was only being withdrawn for now. That's a very Jacob Zuma thing, to say, no, for now, we're going to come back. I'll see you again somewhere. Zuma likes to leave the door open. But what they said is that the withdrawal is in no way an admission that our client does not have a compelling case for the order it seeks. The contrary is true. The party said that they had evidence of election irregularities. However, that they've been advised by their lawyers that there are procedural and technical issues that need to be complied with to present such evidence before the application can be adjudicated by the court. Right? So they are saying that their experts are continuing to uncover further evidence of irregularities, and that evidence was so serious that it would be reckless to risk the application being dismissed on the basis of the IEC's technical objections. Right? What they said as the MK is that their party's experts need time to prepare comprehensive reports which involve a thorough assessment of the IEC's results. And this is what was said by their attorney, Barnabas Tulu, in the letter that was sent to the Electoral Court. The IEC is refusing. They're saying, no. There's a Brenda song that starts like that. No, senor. So the IEC is basically saying, nah, fam, come to the court. Let's settle this matter. So the Electoral Commission of South Africa has asked the Electoral Court to refuse to accept the MK party's withdrawal of its court case to set aside the election. what they're saying is that the MK made serious allegations about the credibility of the election, that they accused the IEC of deliberate vote rigging. And they wrote a letter to the court, saying that the notice of withdrawal was irregular, and they've asked the court to set down the case for argument. This is what has been said by attorneys for the IEC. It is an absolute imperative that the matter is ventilated publicly and a final decision be made by the Electoral Court, at the very least to confirm whether the allegations against the Electoral Commission were made vexatiously and without just cause. Right? They are saying that the MK party has also not offered to pay for the wasted costs of the litigation, which it was required to do. In this case, a punitive order against the MK party is warranted. They're also saying that the MK party is obligated to get permission from the court to withdraw the case, because the court has already issued directions on it. And this is coming from the IEC's attorney, Mr. Kanyane, right? Mr. Kanyane. So this is where things stand. Let's reflect on this a little bit. The IEC is very annoyed and angry that the MK party said that, 9.3 million votes were rigged. They view their credibility to be on the line. And as a result of that, it's very important for them to try to clear their name, restore their credibility, because they don't want a situation where they are viewed as being less than independent and less than professional. I think they are justified to try to clean their name and to make sure that there is no perception going forward that they are not running free and fair elections, right? Because these elections, as the ones that are coming up, are going to be more contested, are going to be more dramatic. There are legitimate criticisms that I think exist of the IEC. They were not ready to run the election with all of the new systems that they had to put in place. I think when we look at the UK election, UK has a similar population to South Africa, and they actually have more registered voters. They think their registered voter population is 40 million out of their 65 million citizens. But if you look at how they ran their election on election day, there were no queues, there were no issues around, no, I can't find my name or anything to that effect. That was, I think, a benchmark to how an election should be run. In addition, I think if you look at how quickly they processed the results, it was amazing to watch. These people voted on the 4th of July, and by the 5th of July, everything had been counted except for one particular constituency, and they're dealing there with 650 different constituency seats, and only one out of 650, 649 were announced. Can you imagine that? So I think there are legitimate criticisms that exist of the IEC, but I think that the IEC is justified to say, listen, we actually want to clean our name. We don't want you guys to be able to walk away from this after having created a perception which will linger, after having created discourse which will continue, without you going to the forum where you have to submit evidence, where that evidence has to be tested. I think I agree with the IEC that this issue must be resolved, but I don't think that you can force a party to, continue arguing a case where they are no longer willing to argue the case, because that also comes with additional costs of getting, advocates, etc., etc. So I don't think you can mandate somebody to continue with the case. I think you can get maybe a punitive cost order. Maybe you can get that, but you can't actually continue to have them, argue that. So I think I'm correct on that. I don't think you can force them to continue without their own willingness. So I think their withdrawal, even though it's got technical issues, those technical issues may be resolvable, but you're not going to be able to force them to continue making the argument. Having said that, I think that the MK party must move on. The MK party has been criticized vehemently on 3 different fronts. Number one, that they are violent, that when Jacob Zuma was saying things like, we didn't come here with a problem, so don't start problems, that was a form of intimidation, and that, the MK party was trying to basically use the threat of violence to get outcomes that were outside democratic norms, principles, and standards. So that is one of the criticisms of the MK party. The second criticism is that, they have been denying the election result, that they are part of this election denialism that we've seen in America happening with Donald Trump, where Donald Trump was saying that, listen, the election was rigged, etc., and has continued with that narratives which led to the January 6th protests and the January 6th events happening at Capitol Hill. So that's a criticism of the MK, the second one. The third one is that they are somehow attackers of the Constitution and that they are advocating for constitutional abolitionism. These are serious criticisms of the party. The other one is also that, it's a party of corrupt individuals, all of the people who were part of state capture, etc. These criticisms will continue to exist and will continue to follow the party. And I think that the party has to move on to gain credibility, right? If you are on, 14.5 or so percent, and you want to go to the next level, as a political party, you have to change the public perception about your own organization, and you have to abandon certain things, even if there are things that maybe Jacob Zuma may want to speak about, or even if there is a lot of resentment to maybe not getting 50% in KwaZulu-Natal. I think that there has to be a serious consideration by MK party around how do they normalize themselves and move away from this. So from the very beginning, I have said, when I looked at all of this conversation around, was the election free and fair? The 2024 elections were free and fair. I said that I could not see material evidence, having looked at all of the stuff that was being posted online, to actually move me from that position. In order for you to say that an election is not free and fair, there's a very high standard to reach that threshold and that yardstick. I don't think that yardstick was met by the MK, even though I think there were problematic issues that I saw here and there where people were trying to change what was on the forms manually, etc. But those incidents were not material. I think there was a big issue with the queues at the universities and other places, which may have led to people not voting. I think part of the reason why the turnout was lower was because those queues frustrated many people and many people just left. I think some people would have stayed in the queue no matter what, till midnight, till 5 a.m. But some people have got children, some people have got work the next day, some people are tired, some people don't feel safe at night in certain neighborhoods, and they would have left the queue. And I think that had not a material impact, that had an impact in a degree to the voter outcome. But I don't think that the election was not free and fair. I think it was a free and fair election, and I think the MK party needs to move on from this election denialism. And I think this withdrawal, even though it's being done in a way where they're giving themselves some, wiggle room, saving face, I think it's a good thing for them to do. Take this L, move on from this particular conversation. I think it's not a healthy conversation for the MK party, and it's not a healthy conversation for the democracy as things stand right now. So I know there's people who are going to disagree with me from the MK in the comments, but I do think that as a political party, you need to move on from this. You need to move on to some of the stuff where you will have likelihood to gain credibility, gravitas, seriousness within the global discourse and the local discourse, right? Because as things stand right now, there's a perception that, if the MK party were to ever take over, the rand will collapse, things will go to mayhem, etc., etc. And you have to move beyond that particular perception, because if you don't actually deal with these perceptions, they will continue and they will be damaging to your own organization, right? What else do I want to say about the MK? I think at this particular moment, it's going to be important for the MK to show what is their parliamentary agenda, to show what is their, shadow cabinet, because we are seeing cabinet ministers making announcements. We are seeing movement of cabinet ministers here, and there. Who is your shadow cabinet? What is the position of that shadow cabinet on various developments that have been happening? Part of the work of being the leader of opposition is to actually show us what's happening with your shadow cabinet. Communicate, shadow when the DA was in official opposition, my emails were so full. Every shadow cabinet minister, any move the ANC makes, they have written a letter. Any move the ANC makes, they've put a statement out. That is the work of shadow cabinet, to try to conscientize the public on issues and concerns that they should be aware of. And it's on MK. That's a burden that's on you to rise to that occasion. Set up your shadow cabinet. Set up your parliamentary agenda. Put out position papers on various legislation that you think needs to be taken. Start showing that you have an understanding of parliamentary procedure, of parliamentary process, and how to be an effective opposition. You're not the first official opposition. There have been many. The Labour Party just came into power in the UK. They were official opposition there for a very long time, and they were doing things as official opposition that were able to gain them credibility and trust of the British population. So you have to do the same. So I think it's good that you withdrew the case, MK. I think it's good that the MK case has been withdrawn. I think the IEC is justified to try to clear their name in any case, but I don't think that it's going to be possible for them to do that by force. I don't think it's you can do that. Maybe the best that they can do is to get that cost order, for wasted time on litigation. It's not only them who are preparing papers. I think the Democratic Alliance as well was opposing the MK case, and maybe a few others. So, they would have spent money. So it would be interesting to see how the Electoral Court deals with this, considering that there are some technical issues. Last story on MK. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but two MK party members, Visvin Reddy and Bonginkosi Kanyile, were fined 150,000 each by the Electoral Court after being found guilty of contravening the Electoral Code. And basically, they were threatening in various ways to bring the election to a halt. So Judge Esther Stein, in her judgment, found that Reddy and Kanyile had contravened 4 laws of the Electoral Code, including one which stipulates that no person may prevent anyone from exercising a right to vote. So she fined them 150,000 each, but she suspended the order for 5 years. The Electoral Commission had actually asked the court to impose a 200,000 fine, but the judge of the Electoral Court did not agree with that, right? So even though she found the statements to be serious, she actually didn't say, listen, we're going to do this. So for Reddy, she said that he had no previous history of political transgressions of this nature, and he had attempted to make an apology. So she took that into consideration. For Bonginkosi Kanyile, she said that he had already been punished by the party, right? So she said, in her view, having considered various factors, imposing a maximum penalty of 200,000 would be disproportionate given the fact that Kanyile has already been punished by the MK party, and they punished him by removing him from his position as youth leader. So that's the standing on that. I think it's very important that this judgment happened so that people understand that, you can't make reckless political statements as a political party leader. You can't actually violate the Electoral Code. And it's important that everyone understands and knows that. And I think by issuing the fine of 150,000, everyone now knows how serious the stuff is. And I think suspending it is a mitigation that I think allows for everyone to understand and appreciate that the Electoral Court takes this seriously. And I think MK as well, this is something that you need to be telling all of your leaders and volunteers and members about. A party in the UK had a similar problem called Reform UK, where they had new members coming in, and those members were saying all kinds of racist things and misogynist things and sexist things and particularly troubling things. And what Nigel Farage has said is that, they're going to clean house. they're going to get rid of all of these bad apples and make sure that their party, Reform UK, can be taken seriously. It's a party that got 4 million votes, 5 seats in the latest election. The UK system uses a first-past-the-post system. So even though they got a lot of votes, they were not able to actually win a lot of seats, even though they were able to suppress the performance of the Conservative Party. So one of the interesting things that's happening there is that the UK is now having a debate about whether or not they should have a proportional system. While some in South Africa are having a debate about having electoral reform to have a constituency-based model for these elections because they think it's more important to vote for your MP directly than to have this proportional system. So this is part of what the electoral reform fights have been about, trying to introduce independence into the system, all of that. People don't think that the system works as is. So I'm going to leave you with this question. What do you think about the MK, these questions, right? Not one. What do you think about the MK withdrawal? What do you think about the fine that was levied on these members of the MK party? And what do you think the MK party needs to do going forward to be taken seriously as a political party in South Africa? And finally, do you think that South Africa needs a constituency-based system? They're complaining about it in the UK. They're saying, how can a party get so many votes and so few seats? So I'm interested to hear what you think. Let's have a conversation in the comments. Thanks so much to everyone who subscribed. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider subscribing. We need new media. We need new voices. We need voices that are going to cover all the political parties fairly, objectively, and with a theoretical framework. Till the next one.